Hi, everybody. My name is Andy Goodman, and I want to thank you for joining this webinar to talk a bit about the faculty position in the Microbial Sciences Institute in partnership with the Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology. So we'll start with a brief round of introductions for our panelists. Then I will introduce the MSI and say a little bit about the faculty position. Tom Neer will introduce the EEB department, and I want to set aside most of our time to answer your questions. And so if you have questions, I'll repeat this in a few minutes. There is a Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom webinar, so just type your questions in there, and those will just go to the panelists, and then I'll read them back for everyone to hear. We'll try to get to everybody's questions, but we'll also be able to follow up with people individually after that. So let's start with introductions. Maybe I'll go first. Like I said, my name is Andy Goodman. I'm the director of the Microbial Sciences Institute. I've been at Yale since I was an assistant professor about 11 years now. My work focuses on the role of the gut microbiome in health and disease. Stavrila, do you want to go next? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, Zoom mistake, sorry. Hi, everybody. My name is Stavrila Hadzios. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Molecular, Cellular, and Developmental Biology and Chemistry. I'm an assistant professor in MSI, and my lab uses chemical approaches to study interactions between bacterial and host cells in the context of gastrointestinal infections.
Marta?
Hi, my name is Marta Munoz. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology. I'm an evolutionary biologist, and I study how behavior influences evolution.
Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, perhaps good evening, depending on where you're at in the world. I'm Tom Neer. I'm the chair of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology. I'm a professor in the department. This is starting my 16th year at Yale, and my research focuses on the mechanisms that generate biodiversity in fishes.
Great, thanks. And again, we'll have most of our time for your questions that this panel will be able to help with. But first, a little bit about the position and MSI, because this is a bit of an unusual faculty position and probably needs some explaining. So I have a couple slides about the Microbial Sciences Institute and Yale's West Campus, which is where the MSI is located, that I will try to share now. Okay, so the West Campus was acquired by Yale almost 15 years ago now. You're looking in the left at an overview picture of the campus with New Haven in the background behind. And the organization of the West Campus is to bring together scientists from diverse disciplines that represent many different departments around several themes. And those themes are organized into institutes, which is described at the bottom of this slide. So the members of these institutes all have primary appointments in a traditional department at Yale, but their lab and their hallway colleagues are members of other departments that share an interest in the theme of the institute. So just to get a sense of the size of this community, there's currently almost 50 labs at West Campus, representing the School of Engineering, the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, and the School of Medicine. These labs, again, connect 18 different departments at Yale together and host over 600 students. That also includes the School of Nursing, which is at West Campus, 60 postdocs, and are supported by 5 technical cores. And the West Campus has been slowly growing over the last 10 or so years. Most of the growth of the West Campus is through external hires. So 75% of these 50 faculty have been hired externally to come to the West Campus as a member of one of these institutes. As I mentioned, West Campus is just outside of New Haven. It's about 5 miles from downtown New Haven. There are shuttles that run every 20 minutes back and forth from different parts of New Haven to the West Campus. And there are many features of the campus, which I can answer more questions about, or we can during our Q&A, including things like childcare, on-site gym, conference center, nature trails. You saw pictures of some of these earlier. Just to give you a sense of the size of the West Campus, if you're familiar with New Haven, there's a map of downtown New Haven here on this slide. If we overlay the footprint of West Campus on there, you can see it's basically nearly the size of much of the Yale campus in downtown New Haven. So why do we have an MSI? It really comes from the appreciation that we live in a microbial world, and that microbes have profound impacts on many aspects of our lives, and our health. And just some of those connections are listed here. We view microbes as the world's best chemists, microbes as being critical to understanding human health, as well as having profound influences on the environment, agriculture, climate, and many other aspects. So the goals of the MSI are, again, to be a central hub for microbiology on Yale's campus. We really support and encourage diverse approaches and expertise within the Institute. So we have chemists who are next door to biophysicists, who are next door to geneticists, et cetera, all who are united by a focus on microbes. We also work hard to promote the success of our members at all career stages, really from the perspective that an appointment at MSI should be a benefit for the members of this community. This includes support for students and postdocs to go to workshops and conferences. It includes retreats we held specifically for our trainees, as well as mentorship for junior faculty that continues throughout their career growth. And then finally, we look to promote interactions outside of the Institute. There are many connections with the other West Campus institutes, as well as the university more broadly. And I'll just end with just the point that we're really working to make MSI a place where people are supported and successful. And I'm highlighting mostly some of the recognition that our students and postdocs have received recently, including also a couple of faculty notes here as well. These kinds of awards are, of course, just one way to measure success. We can certainly use other ways, including publications. Very importantly, our trainees going on to reach their own career goals. And with all of these, I'm very proud and happy with how MSI has supported these labs as they grow. So that's a brief introduction to the Institute. A little bit more about the faculty position. So all members of MSI labs and other West Campus labs, again, have a primary appointment in one of the departments at Yale. And by primary, what I mean is a full appointment. So this is not an honorary appointment or a secondary appointment. It is a full appointment in that department with all of the support, as well as all of the expectations that a primary appointment provides. And so the way this actually works in practice is that everything financial, grants administration, et cetera, is organized through the department. Hiring and HR type things are all through the department. And teaching is coordinated through the department. Mentorship is combined between the department and the Institute. So the department is the unit that formally guides the tenure process, but as Institute Director, I'm involved in that whole process, sitting on the tenure committee and also providing a perspective from the microbiology and MSI perspective during the promotion process. And we can talk more about that. I'm sure there'll be questions. about that. The labs are MSI members' labs are again at MSI. So the hallway conversations, et cetera, are with other members of MSI who are likely not in the same department. But again, MSI members typically have an office near or in their home department, attend all the same faculty meetings as the rest of their department, and are again fully members of that community. So that's a brief overview of the position. As in the advertisement, the review is basically looking for alignment with both the MSI and the department. So the way that we think about these applications is looking for people that we think will benefit from having this two sets of colleagues and support systems whose work lies at the interface, in this case of ecology and evolutionary biology and microbiology, where we can see how at MSI and at the home department, we can help somebody do better and try new things and more bold and exciting studies than they might if they were only in a microbiology department or only in an EEB department, for example. So again, we can circle back to that if there's questions more about the application process and the review process. But maybe with that, I'll stop and hand things over to Tom Neer to say a little bit about the EEB department. Well, you're muted.
Thank you, Andy, and thanks everyone else for being here today. So Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology is entering its 25th year of existence on Yale's campus. So that seems like a long time, but even given that we're one of the youngest departments in the School of Faculty Arts and Sciences at Yale. We maximum number of faculty we've had was 17. We're currently at 16. And we have a new colleague joining us this fall, and we have a potential offer. We have an offer out for another colleague that's in negotiation. Plus, we have 2 vacancies. And then with this position, we could get up to 20 or 21 faculty in the department, which would be the highest number of faculty the department's ever had. A microbiologist is going to be really well placed in Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology. We have 3 faculty members currently in our roster who work with microbes and viruses. So it's Professor Paul Turner, Professor Brandon Ogbunu, and Professor Vanessa Ezenwa. And we're all really excited about this search. We think that we've had experience leveraging the expertise at MSI, and very positive experience with that. And we think that recruiting an outstanding microbial ecologist and/or evolutionary biologist, that person will be really well placed for success and continued success by being a member of MSI as well as EEB. In terms of our obligations of the department, all EEB faculty members teach 2 courses a year. One of those courses must be an undergrad course. All junior faculty are granted 3 semesters of paid leave. It's called junior faculty leave. You could think of it as sabbatical. And there is a reappointment process for the assistant professor rank that I'm only mentioning it now because one must take 1 or 2 of those semesters. You could take 2 semesters consecutively, by the way, of leave prior to that evaluation, and then finish off the allotted 3 semesters of junior faculty leave after that evaluation or reappointment. So that's pretty much what we expect of our faculty. And then, senior faculty members at Yale, we have a triennial leave process where essentially every 3rd year there's a semester of paid leave. So that's it in a nutshell, and happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you, Tom. So that was a bit of a whirlwind introduction to the Institute and the department, but I really wanted to have most of our time for answering your questions. So please, you can put them in the Q&A there below. Those will come to me, and then I will read them aloud and then ask the rest of our panel to help with answering them. One thing I should say up front is that we can't evaluate the appropriateness of a specific research project for this search during this webinar. We just wouldn't have enough information to do that. So those kinds of questions may be better sent by email to me rather than doing here. So yeah, please think of your questions, and I'll start reading them and asking our panelists to answer. So the first question we got was asking for some more information about mentorship for junior faculty at MSI. Stavrila, do you want to talk about that?
I'm gonna unmute myself this time. Yes, I'm happy to talk about that. So I think the mentorship at MSI is really great. I started out here in 2017, and yeah, I have benefited tremendously from very focused mentorship in the MSI, predominantly from the director of the Institute, now Andy, who's been tremendous the past couple of years. I specifically, interact with Andy very regularly, just, socially in the hallways, but also through more focused interactions. Whenever I have a grant that I need to submit or a paper, I get a lot of focused feedback from him in terms of how to improve those components, guidance on tenure and review processes. I actually find that I receive my most significant and, let's say, extensive mentoring input through the MSI, predominantly through Andy and also some other senior members of the Institute, than in my home department, because my lab is located here. So I interact with them more casually throughout the day, but also the MSI is a smaller academic unit than the department, which my department, the biology MCDB department, is about 40 faculty. And so the potential for more interaction with senior faculty, I think, within the MSI day-to-day is a little bit greater based on my experience. So the other thing I'll mention is that, I get focused interaction and mentoring from colleagues in MSI, but I also have my own separate mentoring committee within my department. So I feel like you get kind of double the mentoring support that most other junior faculty. And I definitely feel that from talking to other colleagues in my home department, that I think there's an added benefit of having the mentoring support from within the MSI. So I'm happy to answer more specific questions, but that's kind of a broad overview of my experience.
Great, thanks. Maybe this is a chance to also, Martha, do you want to say anything about your experience with starting your lab in the EEB department?
Sure, and I could also just briefly touch on what was just said about mentorship within the department, because I am a junior faculty member in EEB. So the way it works in EEB is that you are assigned, or you can actually pick as well, a senior member of the department to be your mentor, and you can change your mentor throughout your pre-tenure years as well. And there is another member of this committee who is the chair. So you and those two other folks will sit down up to one time per semester or more if you need the feedback, and just go over things, get feedback on how you're doing. If you have targeted questions, they will answer them. And if you want, big picture feedback, they offer that too. So I've taken full advantage of those opportunities, and I found it to be really encouraging and helpful to do so. Okay, so on to setting up a lab in EEB. I guess I would say in what sense we had support from the department. So mechanistically, how it worked is I discussed with Tom what my needs would be prior to arriving, and this, in my case, involved some renovation to create some environmental chambers. So in order to do that, I was paired with a group of architects and engineers, and pretty much, soup to nuts, we sat down and discussed what those requirements would be. I started in fall of 2019, and the first hammer was set to swing in March of 2020. So it didn't quite happen on the appointed date, but it did happen, and those are up and running. So, and this was a really big renovation, like it was a massive overhaul of the space. So yeah, we have the space to do the work, and I found it to be very as smooth as possible.
Thank you. the next question, actually from the same person, was asking about centers at MSI for things like genomics, computational biology, et cetera. And that's something I probably should have mentioned about the West Campus, is that it's really the home for much of Yale's innovation in technological cores. So the Yale Center for Genome Analysis, for example, is at the West Campus. It's in the next building over from MSI. When I got here, I thought that it didn't really matter where the genome sequencing center was, but in practice, it has been great to be able to just walk over there. If we have a new technique or want to try something out, to just talk to people there. And we've used them for transcriptomics, genomics, metagenomics, et cetera, and as well as other things over the course of my time here. Computational biology there at Yale has extensive high performance computing clusters. One of them actually is housed at the West Campus, but that one you really have less of a sense of where it physically is. But every faculty member has access to these high performance computing clusters, as well as dedicated, there's full-time staff there to help. And we've worked with them to implement software more at a broader level for use by more labs than my own. There's also opportunities to purchase expanded space beyond the kind of default allocation that every Yale faculty member gets. The other technical cores at West Campus are all on the West Campus website. It includes chemical screening cores, imaging and microscopy, metabolomics and proteomics, as well as a few others. So a lot of that is here at West Campus. In addition, as a faculty member at Yale, you have access to any technical course that are anywhere else at the university as well. People in my lab have used cores in chemistry and at the medical school over the years. The next question, maybe I'll let Tom attack this one. The question is what balance of theoretical, modeling and empirical and experimental approaches are you looking for in this position, if anything?
Yeah, I think that, Andy, I think that kind of, you in a sense answered that question, in that our kind of search image is pretty wide open right now. And we don't really have kind of the information to say what would be preferred in terms of a particular research program, one over another. So, the program, both programs, EEB and both MSI, have a strong tradition in aspects of theory and modeling, as well as obviously empirical and experimental approaches. So I think I could safely say from the EEB side, we don't really have kind of a specific set of areas within microbiology and evolution that we're looking at right now.
Yeah, I would echo that from the MSI perspective. There's not a specific type of research that we're targeting in this search. The framework that again we're using is trying to find people where we think we can help them achieve their best success and really benefit from having these two sets of colleagues that provide different expertise and perspectives. The next question is whether we've already invited applicants and is the search open? So the search is open. You can find the link. The application is through Interfolio, and the link for that is on the MSI website, as well as through that job ads that are now live on Job Archive, Nature, Science, and a few other places. I should add that this is an open rank position. It also says that in the ad. So applicants who are applying as assistant professors or at more senior ranks are invited to apply. The application materials are more or less the same, although there are no letters of reference at this stage for non-assistant professor candidates. If you have any trouble with the Interfolio website or unclear about any of the components of the application, just send me an email and we can figure that out. Also, as stated on the MSI website and in the ads, we plan to start reviewing applications November 1st. So we realize that that is not a lot of time. Hopefully the components of the application are similar to those you're preparing for other faculty positions. And that gives us enough time to make sure we get our invitations for interviews in a timely manner. And I could say a little bit more about that process maybe later if there's more questions about the interview process. The next question is about support for family members of Yale faculty with Yale tuition. And there is college tuition benefit for Yale faculty that have been here for a certain number of years. And it is not specific to enrollment at Yale. So the amount of that support is related to Yale's tuition, but the support does not require family members of Yale faculty to attend Yale as undergraduates.
Right, and it's not limited
You
to
can correct
faculty.
this, if I missed anything.
It's not limited to faculty either. So all staff at Yale are can get this benefit. So even folks in facilities and dining, as well as the academic staff, the faculty have this tuition benefit.
Great. These are really good questions, so keep them coming. And again, if we don't get to all of them, please just send me an email and we can follow up. So the next question was about tenure evaluation. How is research and number of grants evaluated? How is teaching and mentoring evaluated at the tenure process? And maybe maybe Tom, you could say a few words about that, but I also would like to hear from our other panelists about their perspective on that process, whether you're thinking about tenure already, or how that kind of starting in that process has been. But maybe Tom, I'll let you start.
Yes, happy to. So it's actually fairly straightforward. It's to get tenure at Yale. It's defined at the Faculty of Arts and Sciences Faculty Handbook, is that basically the person is an emerging international leader in their field. And that is the criteria we use. That is the criteria, that is the definition or the criteria which we approach external evaluators. And it's really beyond that. There's no kind of set quantifiables. At the university I was at before Yale, I was told 2 publications a year, one in a top shelf journal per year, and get a grant. I was never told that here at Yale. And my experience of getting tenure here, as well as being on tenure evaluation committees myself, that it's not a quantifiable. It's not X number of grants. It's not X number of papers. It really comes down to, do your colleagues view the candidate, do the colleagues view the candidate as an emerging international leader in their field?
Savrilla or Martha, is there anything to add about tenure process?
Sure. I mean, Tom, that sentence that Tom said, I would have almost said verbatim. I would have said rising international leader. So one and the same. Yeah, I did 2 years as an assistant professor prior to joining Yale at Virginia Tech. And so did Tom, as you mentioned. And it was essentially that, this many papers, 1 grant, et cetera, et cetera. And I kind of prefer Yale's vision because I think it's more about the individual than it is about the products. And so I've appreciated that at every step of the way, what I bring as an individual to the program, to the university is front and center. So I think, yeah, that this is an improvement in that regard. And you get feedback regularly on what that means, right? It can seem very simple, but maybe if you dissect it, it can also seem complex. And so the faculty are here to sort of guide you in that process. And it's allowed me to sort of focus on the much bigger question. Getting tenure or not is a really important question, but a much bigger and more important question is, what's the impact on the field that you want to have? And so this focus on the individual has sort of given me free rein to think about that deeply and what it is I want to contribute and who I am as a scholar. So yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, I'll just add, I agree with everything that's been said. I think forging a sort of innovative and impactful research program is foremost. And I think a lot of us are focused on that, just the excitement of the program that you're building as a junior faculty member. I think practically speaking, we touched on briefly before mentoring committees. Those are super helpful in helping provide feedback on areas of improvement, things that are going well. And then you also have some of these checks along the way pre-tenure, like the reappointment, where your department does a formal evaluation, and then your committee can give you some good feedback there about areas you should focus on. And I also personally like, we teach here at Yale and value that pretty deeply in the FAS, Faculty of Arts and Sciences. And I think that the university also looks at that. So of course, research is first and foremost, but we also feel that that's a very important mission aspect of the university. So I think that's also another area that people strive to improve through the course of their junior faculty tenure.
Great. The next question is about the application materials, which have separate documents for past and future research statements, and asking for more information about having it divided that way. That is how we've done previous searches before. I wouldn't say there's a specific motivation for that. I think it's consistent with our emphasis on the question and approach that our candidates want to ask. And I think it's a one-page past research statement, not including references, and a 3-page future research statement, not including references. And I think that is consistent with our approach when we look at these candidates, look at the applications, to really focus on, number one, is the question or area they're trying to understand, trying to explore, something that is compelling and exciting, and then we look for whether a candidate is in the right position and has the right foundation to be successful in that question. The next question is about teaching. Tom had mentioned that faculty teach 2 courses, and the question is whether this will be currently existing courses or will there be an opportunity to develop a new course?
Yes, so we really encourage junior faculty to develop their own teaching portfolio. So we really try to keep our junior faculty out of our larger service courses. So our department participates in a course we collaborate with the 2 other biology departments in FAS, Foundations of Biology. It's a 4 half-semester course sequence. EEB teaches one of those half-semester courses. And I think Martha, I'll let her speak to it, but she's a great example of somebody who came in and developed not only her own kind of upper level course, but it's a course that's required for one of the 2 tracks in our major. In fact, the track in EEB that appeals to pre-professional students, pre-med students. And so I could see a faculty member, resulting from this search, teaching an upper level course aimed at biology majors, particularly EEB majors, but also students in MCDB that is on aspects of ecology or evolutionary biology of microbes, or even microbial diversity. And then what all of us do is, even our junior faculty members will occasionally rotate into our service courses, not the large ones such as the Foundations of Biology, but another track in our major requires a course in ecology and evolutionary biology, 2 different courses. And when I was a junior faculty member, and I know Martha's taught this as well as a junior faculty member, our evolution course, to come in and teach that. So for our new faculty members, the bottom line is develop a course in your area of expertise and aim it at kind of our upper level undergraduate students and graduate students, and then be willing to participate in courses that are required for the major. Martha, do you have any thoughts on the experience of a faculty member teaching the EEB?
I think it's been a very positive experience. So as Tom mentioned, I have taught the intro course in evolution, not intro level, meaning the intro biosequence, but rather this service course. I really enjoyed it. I love teaching evolution, so that was really fun. And I've also really enjoyed developing my own course in comparative physiology. So we have a second track within our major that's designed for pre-professional students, especially pre-med students. And making EEB accessible, fun, and illuminating for mostly pre-professional students was, I thought, a really exciting challenge. And I think it's been fairly successful, mostly because I get to inject all the things I find cool about comparative physiology into it. So yeah, I've had nothing but fun teaching in the department.
And let me just add, I think we all can weigh in on this, that it just blew my mind when I first started teaching here at Yale. I always, as a professional, I always want to do a good job, and I always paid attention to my teaching and really tried to do it well. But I was kind of a public school guy throughout my career, and my first time teaching at Yale was really just mind-blowing in terms of getting almost as much as I was from the students as I was giving to them. And that experience has kind of continued for the past 16 years.
Right. The next question is about the personal statement section of the application. And again, this is maybe a bit of an unusual part of the application. The question is what is expected in that personal statement? And if you go on the Interfolio site, you'll see some instructions there, which, paraphrasing, asks for you to share your perspectives about opportunities and challenges in diversity in science. So it's very important to us at MSI to grow our faculty in a way that reflects the diversity of our trainees. That, I think, can be done in multiple ways, but this section is really just an opportunity for you to provide your perspective on that. I think it says that specific examples of your experiences are welcomed in that section. That's actually the only section of the application that doesn't have a page limit, so you can really use that to provide anything that doesn't fit elsewhere in the application, but you feel would be important in evaluating your application. But there is not a specific expectation than just to give people an open platform, again, to share your perspectives about, again, opportunities as well as challenges with diversity and inclusion in science. The next question is about teaching and service, teaching and service duties between EEB and MSI. And that's a very good question, because as a member of the MSI and EEB communities, you are part of two communities. And we generally try to keep the service, well, first, teaching. There's no teaching component to MSI beyond, at lunch or when someone comes in your office to ask about a question, like the kind that we all do, but there are no classes run through MSI. And Tom already described the teaching through the department. When it comes to service, we try to keep the service obligations minimal at MSI, but we do have a functioning community that has events that require oversight. So, for example, right now, there's one MSI member who's in charge of organizing our internal seminar series, where students and postdocs present their work to the MSI community about once a week. Another faculty member is organizing the external, that might be Stavrula, actually is organizing the external, or maybe the other way around. Yeah, our external seminar. So all the labs invite external speakers to speak at the MSI community Those invitations are about half from faculty and half from trainees, and all of that is supported administratively by MSI. So arranging the travel and the scheduling and covering all the costs and things like that. But there's a faculty member who oversees that, just make sure we don't double invite people, things like that. Last year we did a postdoc retreat, which was a day. We all went to the Mystic Aquarium, which is about 45 minutes from New Haven, and had rented that space out and used it as a kind of career workshop for our postdocs. And there was a faculty member who supervised the committee that organized that retreat. So there's those kinds of events with service that again helps our community grow. MSI also has full admin support. So there are 2 full-time administrators who support MSI labs, help with things like purchasing, organizing lunches, and other kind of administrative events. And also those service commitments or contributions, I relay to the department as a member of the mentoring committee for any MSI junior faculty member. When I join those meetings, I can convey the service that MSI members are providing to the Institute. Sivrila, did I miss anything about MSI service?
No, I think that sums it up. I would just say, I mean, we're all very invested in developing the community here. And I think a lot of these programs are actually really fun to participate in, and the time commitment for organizing them isn't too bad because we do have a lot of great administrative support. So they give a lot back to the community, like these retreats that we have. And it's just nice having a separate community here that all of our trainees can relate to. And yeah, so a lot of the service is just in the name of building that community.
And I want to keep an eye on our time here. Tom, do you have a word or two about service in EEB?
Yeah, our experience in having faculty who, have these joint appointments, such as with MSI, has been really positive with regard even to service, in that, in a sense, folks in EEB would recognize the service one is providing at MSI, and we don't expect faculty to do twice the amount of service because they're associated with 2 units. So I think of service as it's a discrete trait in a sense, meaning that a person is doing service and doing it well, or they're not. And kind of wherever that service is directed, it's not as if it would not be visible. If one was perhaps aiming much of their service at MSI versus EEB, there's going to be tons of opportunity for service in the department. We also have a retreat. It's coming up this week. We're going to a spa along the coast here in Connecticut, and we have great weather projected, and we needed help organizing that, and some faculty help out with that. We organize a seminar series, and we have departmental governance with regard to positions such as directors of undergraduate studies, director of graduate studies. Faculty help organize the recruitment and visit of our prospective graduate students. So I don't think service is something that will hinder somebody's progress or success, or if it's directed more at MSI, is not something that would be a challenge of having visibility within EEB.
The next question is about graduate students and postdocs, and how would that work? So for postdocs, the hiring is with really anybody, whether it's a staff or postdocs, is done through the department. So the HR component of running a lab is supported by the home department. But as Sivrila mentioned, we have 2 full-time administrative staff at MSI who help with getting people welcome to the Institute as well. So they'll help, set up their access to the different rooms and help with that kind of orientation. But the hires are again, and paychecks and all that kind of stuff is health insurance. That's all through the department. For graduate students, there's 2 different graduate programs, maybe I should mention, because they may be differentially applicable to different people. There is a biomedical science umbrella graduate program that some MSI graduate students enter through. The graduate programs in general are separate from the department. So at least in the terms of the biomedical umbrella program, students apply to that program, not to a specific lab. And then once they matriculate, they then can do rotations in various labs, and then get their graduate supervision is through that biomedical science umbrella. There's also an EEB graduate program as well that brings in graduate students, and maybe Martha or Tom could say a little bit about that program.
Yeah, so we basically recruit students who are guaranteed 5 years of funding, and they have to teach 3 terms in those 10 semesters. And basically, we ask that PIs cover stipend beyond year 4. So given the university fellowships that we receive from the graduate school, we're able to fund our students fully years 1 through 4. And that, of course, is we have students who come in with NSF GRPs, et cetera, and other external fellowships, give us that agency to fund students through these university fellowships so deep into their career, in a sense, their time as a graduate student. And anywhere in a given year, we're admitting anywhere from 5 to 8. I would say is the modal value is somewhere between there, bringing 5 to 8 students into the program. Martha, is there anything you'd want to add to that?
No, that pretty much covers it.
I'm going to start summing together some of the overlapping questions here. But again, if we don't get to your question during this webinar, please feel free to reach out and we'll respond by email. So there's several questions about the letters of reference, which again is specifically for assistant professor candidates. There are 3 letters of reference requested, and we would like those sent with the initial applications rather than waiting for the next round. And the reason for this is we want to be as efficient as possible with getting selected candidates their invitations to come interview with the most time and flexibility to have those interviews happen. And so the interview process will again be in early 2023. There'll be individual visits of candidates who will come and give a research presentation, most likely a more informal chalk talk as well, and spend time both in MSI and in the department in order to get those invitations out with enough time for the most flexibility and making sure that the most number of EEB and MSI faculty are present. We really need to be efficient at this upfront end, and for that reason, we would like the letters to be sent in the first round. In terms of who the letters should come from, whether it's a teaching mentor or a research mentor, I would advise from the MSI perspective, we have the research mentor letters will be, primarily what we focus on. Tom, I don't know if you want to add anything about
Advice I received from a faculty member who's retired: get people who are going to tell us that you're the best in the world at what you do. And that's what you should be doing, is getting evaluators who are going to really speak to all of your strengths. And I wouldn't think about how those are compartmentalized, but getting evaluators who are going to provide very strong evaluations for you.
There's a question about space, that the EEB appointment is a primary appointment, but lab and office spaces at MSI. And to clarify what that means. So the arrangement is that the lab space and your primary office will again be at MSI. MSI is a physical place. It's a floor of a building. where all of the MSI members work. And so the primary office, as well as the lab space, is at MSI at West Campus. It's typical for West Campus faculty to have most often a shared office near their home department. You can use that to hang your coat, to meet with people before and after your teaching, etc. And that's kind of a secondary office that would be at near the EEB department. Let's see. There's many good questions here. Questions about criteria in evaluate, or we kind of talked about this a bit. There's a question about whether the number of collaborators will be used as a criterion in evaluating applications. I think that there's certainly not a strict number, like we need to see 2 collaborations or 10 collaborations or anything like that. We certainly value collaboration, but also recognize that there are other scientists whose work has been more focused on their own primary research with a small number of authors, and maybe not having external collaborators, and that's fine as well. So again, we're really looking at the scientific question that the application wants to pursue, whether the candidate has the foundation and is in the right place to make great progress on that question. And third, can MSI and EEB allow someone to do better than they might do otherwise? And I think that's the framework. There's a question about whether computational biology courses are taught as core in undergraduate EEB.
Not yet, but we hope soon. And integrative data science is one of 5 areas identified by the university 5 years ago, and a Yale science strategy report that was put together by a person who's currently the provost of the university. And one of our faculty members, actually, is a microbial biologist, Professor Paul Turner, is the current director of the Quantitative Biology Institute, which is not at West Campus, but housed here at main campus. So in a number of our ecologists in EEB have real strong computational perspective and theoretical perspective. And we would love to develop an undergraduate course in computational biology. So if that's something you would be interested in doing, please apply for the position. That would certainly be welcomed in our curriculum.
There's a question about facilities for field microbial experiments at MSI and EEB. On the MSI perspective, there is a few different resources there. So there's a fully functioning greenhouse, for one, that's available for research use. There are extensive open spaces that span from grasslands to forest that also have been used by MSI as well as other West Campus researchers as a field site. And MSI researchers have used other field sites that are available to scientists at the university. I don't know if maybe Martha or Tom want to talk about the Yale Forest or other things like that.
Well, Yale Forest it's run by the School of the Environment, and we've had faculty members do work there. And the Yale Peabody Museum has a little station on an island in Long Island Sound called Horse Island. And they also have adjacent marshland property that they would welcome folks to come do work on.
Yeah, I'm one of the faculty who works in Yale Mowers Forest. I've found it a very easy process to get permission. If anything, folks were really encouraging of Yale faculty using the space. Yeah, so that's what I can say about my experience there.
Great. Okay. maybe just in our last few minutes, it might be worthwhile just to say a little bit about New Haven and life in Connecticut. For those of you who haven't lived in Connecticut before, I certainly hadn't before moving here, and knew very little about what to expect. But what I've found is New Haven is a small city. I think is because of having Yale here, has strengths in the arts that many faculty take advantage of, whether it's the multiple theater series that are here, music, etc., the extensive restaurants that are available. It's also many options for living in a city environment with walking distance to restaurants and grocery stores and coffee shops and all that, or living outside of the city, either near the beach or in the woods, etc. So what was surprised me about Connecticut is how many different options you have for where to live. And for people who've spent less time in New Haven, how was the settling in?
I mean, I'll just say I agree. I think it punches well above its weight in terms of just cultural opportunities and activities, the quality and diversity of the food that's available, just the outdoor activities. Even the landscape is really beautiful. It's not, you've got a lot of mountains and things like that nearby. You can get to New York City quite easily. Maybe some of you are considering or thinking about childcare considerations. There's some daycare centers that are operated by Yale near Science Hill, which is the main campus. And there's one, as Andy mentioned, out here on West Campus as well. And the university also recently introduced some nice childcare subsidies for faculty and staff at all levels on a pay scale. And I found that to be really useful as well. So I think the university is trying very hard to support faculty with young children.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in New York City and I did my schooling in Boston, and I hadn't really spent much time in New Haven before moving here. So this was new for me as well. I will say it's kind of a hybrid of both. So you're very close to New York City, and if you go west of New Haven, it's very tri-state, very metropolitan. And if you go east of New Haven, it becomes New England very, very quickly, with cute little coastal towns, and Boston about 2 hours away. And if you go north of New Haven, you hit the foothills of the Berkshires quite quickly, and you have lots of great hiking. So there's a lot to do here. I've been very pleasantly surprised. I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't really spent time here, but I'm loving New Haven.
Yeah, I echo that. My wife's an attorney, and we loved our 16 years in New Haven. We've lived in New Haven all 16 years, and it's really we're a part of the community. And I grew up in Chicago in a very tight-knit neighborhood, and New Haven to me reminds me of what would be a large super neighborhood in Chicago, in that after being here 16 years, I am not anonymous in my community. There's very few places I could go in town where I don't run into somebody I know, and I really like that.
Okay, well, we're at 2 o'clock. Again, if I missed your question or you need more clarification, please reach out. If you're not sure about applying and you have more questions, again, please reach out. I'm sure that the rest of our panel would also be happy to talk to you, and I can help coordinate that. So again, thank you everyone for joining, and I look forward to seeing your application soon.